So maybe tell us a little bit how a relief valve works.
Okay. This particular kind of valve, it's a spring-loaded relief valve. It's what you're going to find typically on a boiler or an air receiver. It works on force. Basically, spring force keeps the valve closed, and you have, when the valve's in service, you have pressure that comes up inside the what is called the nozzle, and when the pressure when it equals the spring force, this valve will open up. It will start to open up, what they call simmer. It will start to open up, and this pressure will be diverted. This component right here is a lower ring, and it's on an angle, and it'll actually divert the pressure into what is called a huddle chamber that's up inside the guide upper ring. When the pressure meets that area, it'll cause the area to get much larger, and the valve will pop. It happens like instantly on this particular kind of valve. What's real critical on these valves, not only is the set pressure, but the ring adjustments. The ring adjustments, the lower ring gives the valve lift, the upper ring controls the blowdown. When pressure is flowing through the nozzle, it flows in between that lower ring and the upper ring, and that's considered a secondary orifice, and that's where the flow comes out of the discharge. If these rings are set improper, these are basically your performance rings, the valve will not function properly, and also it could not get full rated capacity lift. So it's real critical that when a valve is repaired, that these rings are put in the proper place.
So the relief valve is actually, let's just say it's set at 125 PSI,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Valve's going to lift right at 125 PSI?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. ASME code tolerance does give you plus or minus 3 PSI on a valve set at that pressure. It's a Section 1 relief valve. So when we bench set the valve, we can adjust it accordingly when we're bench testing it. We can't give it a little bit on the high side or the low side. So we tend sometimes just to set it a couple of pounds higher, only because the valve is cold when we're testing it, and when it goes on the operating system, it's sitting in a warmer environment. So,
right. So you have a spring in there, I'm assuming something like this?
Yes.
That is in there, okay. Just any old spring go in any relief valve?
Not just any spring.
Okay.
All springs have their own range, which normally is, with like this kind of valve here, the range of the spring will probably be about, I'd say about 20 or 30 PSI. But the springs they're either lasered or stamped. So if we were to do a VR repair on this valve, that's one of the things that we have to look for, is to make sure it does have the right spring in it.
Okay. And this here,
this is your manual lifting lever. Okay. What's recommended by NBIC is that this valve is there so you can actually, while it's on your boiler, the valve can be manually tested. Not so much for set pressure, but just a functional test to make sure that the internals will move up and down in the valve.
How often do you do that, Rick?
It's recommended that you do it every 6 months. It's done every 6 months. As far as a functional set pressure test, it should be done annually. On a power boiler, 400 PSI or below.
Okay. So 400 PSI or below annually, they're supposed to actually get a test on this valve.
That's a recommendation
by
National Board.
By the National Board. Okay.
Yeah.
So every 6 months they can actually go out, lift the valve to test it themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a recommendation. It's sometimes up to the jurisdiction, an insurance company of the plant where the boiler is located, or like a state inspector, he may require that depending.
Okay.
So
now, Rick, you've talked a little bit about how the actual pieces work, okay, and how the valve works. Maybe let's show how this is actually put together here. So we take the lower ring,
yes,
and you put that on the nozzle.
This
right?
is the lower ring. It would screw down on the nozzle.
Okay.
You have the upper ring.
Upper ring. Yep.
It would basically it would screw down in the body here. Then you would have your disc. Your disc would, it would be in the guiding area of the guide, upper ring. Then you have your spindle. Then you have your lower washer, your spring, your upper washer, and then your compression screw.
Okay, and then that obviously would be sitting down into the valve, right?
Inside the valve, yep. So.
Welcome to The Boiling Point. I am Richie Ware, and this is Bill Fogarty. We haven't had Bill with us in a while. Bill is over our valve shop. Bill, today we're going to talk, I think we want to just clear up some things here. We've got three things: recertification, repair, and test. Those are the words that are out there, and there's some things that are not supposed to be said, right? That people think that they should be doing. So what we like to do is just go over what are the different, the three words:
Yep.
Test, repair, recertification, and then let's talk about the one that's really not supposed to be there.
All right, let's do that. So, our customers, they'll have a schedule for inspection of safety valves or on their boiler, the PM on the boiler, annual inspection, and they'll need to get their safety valves serviced, okay? And, the inspector may say, send them off, get them serviced, get them recertified,
Right.
okay? And the difficulty comes in is that there's really no recertification of a used safety valve. Okay?
Yep.
And so it's a little bit of a misnomer. So what we want to do today is clear up what can you do to these valves, what's allowed.
Yep.
So the first thing is a test only. And we would get this valve in from the customer. This one happens to be a boiler valve. It's set at 200 PSI.
Okay.
So all we're going to do for a test only is we're going to fill out a valve repair and test report.
Okay.
And basically that gets all the information off the valve and any previous repairs, and we note that down. Then we'll take this valve and we'll put it on our steam stand. And we'll do initial 2 or 3 pops and let it soak in, build the heat up in it so it performs properly. And all, after 2 or 3 pops, all the parts will be aligned. And then we'll come back and we'll begin to lift the valve again.
Okay.
Okay. And what we're looking for is 3 consecutive lifts within a set pressure tolerance.
Okay.
So the set pressure tolerance on this valve is plus or minus 3% or 6 PSI.
Right.
So if this lifts 3 times consecutively, anywhere from 194 to 206, it's a good valve in terms of its performance for lifting.
Okay.
Then what we'll do is we'll drop the pressure back down and we'll bring it up to 90% of set pressure. And what we're doing there is we're looking for leakage.
Okay.
And we'll pass a cold metal rod in front of it, look for condensation on that rod, and if there is none, there's no leakage.
Okay.
So then we take the valve off the stand, let it cool down, complete our paperwork, and we'll put a test only tag. That's basically what this is.
Okay. Yep.
And what it does is it denotes that the valve was just tested and the date it was tested and who did it.
Okay.
So by test only, all we're doing is verifying that the valve would lift, and after it lifted, it didn't leak.
Okay.
It's going to come back to you looking just like it did when it left, with the exception it'll have a tag.
Has the tag.
Because we haven't really done anything more than that.
Okay. Okay. Now, is this something that the owner is just saying, hey, I just want to test my valves today, my relief valves today, or is it something that he needs to be doing all the time, or what is the
It's
deal
up to
with
the
that?
it's up to the owner
Okay.
to determine the frequency, working with his inspectors and the guidelines within the company itself. Typically on boiler valves, it's an annual inspection, and generally they want them serviced annually. the kind of the default position where you can't go wrong is to repair it.
Okay.
We'll do it because that's the highest level of service you can offer. And some customers say, no, we'll test them this year and we'll repair them next year.
Okay.
We don't necessarily recommend that, but it's up to the customer, it's up to the owner to determine.
Right. And and really in this test, I mean, you're really trying to make sure that this valve's going to lift.
Yes.
Because this is the last defense on that boiler that is going to keep that thing from going.
It'll keep it from being in the parking lot.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So very important. Okay.
So if we repair the valve, the customer says we want it repaired, what we do is we fully disassemble the valve into all its component pieces, which I've got laid out here. We go through a process of inspection where we'll look for pitting, we'll look for corrosion, erosion, galling of the parts. There are critical dimensions, like this is a nozzle. We'll measure the nozzle height to make sure it's not below minimum.
Okay.
There's a nozzle step here. So there's a whole bunch of critical, what they refer to as critical dimensions. The manufacturer has established that dictate whether this valve will work or not.
Okay.
And we're allowed to do some machining, like if this nozzle step wasn't at the correct height, we would machine that down, but we can only do it to a limit.
Okay.
Once we reach that limit, we have to replace the part.
Okay.
A spring like this, we have to verify that that's the right spring. That spring may only have a 10-pound range.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we've got to verify that's the right spring. If we can't find a color, some are done by color, or a part number on the spring, we have to replace it. We don't have a choice because we really don't know what spring it is.
Okay.
So the process we go through by doing all those things returns it back to the original condition, the original design of the manufacturer.
Okay.
We assemble it. We take it to the test stand and do the same process of testing that we did with this valve, 3 consecutive pops, make sure it doesn't leak at 90% of set pressure, and then we can put a repair tag on it. And on the repair tag, if it's a coated valve, it'll have a VR stamp on it.
Okay.
So we're issued a stamp it belongs to the National Board. This is actually the stamp that we're allowed to stamp the VR stamp on this repair nameplate. Now, in order to have that stamp, every 3 years, we have to demonstrate that we have the quality procedures in place, that our people are trained, we have all the critical dimensions, we have all the gauges. And so it's a pretty arduous process.
Sure.
But that ensures when that stamp is on there, inspector goes, okay, this has been taken back to a like-new condition.
Okay.
So that's the highest level of repair, of service that we can do on a valve. So in summary, we have a test only, which just verifies set pressure and it's not leaking. And we have a repair.
Okay.
Now, anymore, a lot of the manufacturers are putting elastomeric, O-rings in the disc in the seating surfaces, and some of them do it underneath where the nozzle threads into the valve. And after a while, those 2 or 3 years, that's going to give way. It's going to harden up, particularly in steam service, and the valve will start leaking. So there's a limit to when, particularly if it's got elastomeric parts in it, you don't want to wait 5 years to repair it. But you're going to come in one day and go, the safety valve's leaking, nothing happened overnight. Well, probably the O-ring just let loose.
Just let loose.
Yeah.
Now, do you have to have a VR to do the repair, or are there shops out there that actually do repair and don't have a VR?
Well, there are probably some shops that do it. For the most part, inspectors won't accept, or customers won't accept a repair that doesn't have a VR stamp.
So very important to make sure that your valve shop that you use would have a VR.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So in summary, we get questions all the time. We just want it recertified. And when a customer says that, we really don't know what that means, because we only talk in the language of test only or repair.
Okay.
And that's
so there's no other tag that says recertification, nothing like that. It is a test or repair. So great information. Welcome to The Boiling Point. I'm Richie Ware, and this is Brian Grandstaff, and always look forward to hanging out with Brian at theboilerwarehouse.com. Relief valves, Brian, that's the last defense of a boiler, and so very important. We've talked a lot about relief valves in other episodes, but you kind of came up with an idea about sizing. Why don't you roll with it.
Yeah, so, one of the things that we do, we have a valve shop that repairs and recertifies valves, and we've got other videos that talk about what that process looks like, how often you're supposed to, check your relief valves, what that process looks like for you to either repair or test. Recertification really isn't a thing, but repair or test. So I at least wanted to talk about selection and sizing a little bit.
Yeah.
We get a lot of people that call in and they want replacement relief valves. Model number of these valves and the set pressure of these valves gets us a long way on, hey, we can quote you a replacement.
Right.
Every once in a while, you'll run into obsolete or you'll run into lead time issues where, maybe that one valve isn't available and you got to come up with another brand that does the same thing. In order for us to do that, we got to know a few things.
Sure.
We got to know how many connections do you have on the boiler that have relief valves on them? What's the boiler horsepower? What's the boiler MAWP, the maximum design pressure that boiler is rated for? Because when we select our relief valves, we got to make sure that we have enough relief valves that exceed the pounds per hour requirement for these steam boilers to relieve enough steam to make sure that if you have an overpressurized situation, you can evacuate enough steam to not overpressurize the vessel.
Right.
So those are a couple of things that we have to know, like how many relief valves do you have? You might be asking me for one of the relief valves, but I need to know what else is there too and what their relief capacities are.
Sure.
If we're going to do and a lot of these boilers have 2 or 3 connections on the top of them. Well, they might have 2 big relief valves and 1 small relief valve to make up the total capacity. So for us, when we're doing selections, we need to know that if we're going to be crossing things over.
So just a real quick question, 150 PSI boiler, are all relief valves then, do they have to be put at 150 PSI?
They don't, and depending on, the customer, they may have plant requirements where they want to set them a little bit lower, but they have to be set at what the MAWP of the vessel is.
Right.
So you can set them, the VA hospitals, they have a staggered concept of, they may set at 135, 140, 145, or 140, 145, 150. So the relief valves start to pop earlier and they're at a certain point by the time they get to the pressure vessel rating.
Okay.
So that's going to dictate what their operating pressure is.
Okay.
Because of these boilers being mounted, or these relief valves being mounted on the boiler, Section 1 relief valves, they will start to relieve within 3% of the set pressure. So you can't butt up against where you're operating to where the valves are set.
Right.
So you got to kind of, if you're going to do that, you got to plan out what is my operating pressure, and then if I'm going to stagger them, how am I going to stagger them so I'm not popping relief valves when I don't need to be.
Right. And now, do the relief valves have to be on the boiler?
So, we're talking in general terms about sizing steam relief valves on a boiler right now.
Right.
You've got hot water relief valves that are on a boiler. Section 1, that is a fired pressure vessel. Any fired pressure vessel should have a Section 1 relief valve on it.
Okay.
You also have relief valves out in the plant. You might have some in your header. You may have some where you have pressure reducing valves. Relief valves are there basically to protect your equipment, whether that's the boiler or whether that is a heat exchanger or a cooker or whatever it is. All these pieces of equipment are very expensive, and you want to add a safety feature not only for your personnel and your people to protect them, but to protect your equipment also from being overpressurized and being damaged.
Okay.
So any scenario where you're stepping down in pressure from, say, 150 PSI down to 10 PSI, you'll probably have a pressure reducing valve, but you should also have a relief valve or a series of relief valves to be able to protect it if that PRV was to fail.
Sure.
And overpressurize.
Right.
So, in those scenarios, in the steam world, those are Section 8 relief valves. That's an unfired pressure vessel.
Okay.
Or line-mounted valves, Section 8. So, and there's also non-code valves. It doesn't have to meet a code, it's just there for safety.
Okay.
But the codes are required for the stuff that has to have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, notice on these that, you have a size here. does that size have to match the outlet on the boiler?
So typically it does not. So you can be smaller than that on the inlet side, but what you can't do is you can't reduce the outlet side. The outlet side is a vent, and normal piping terms in any scenarios where you have vents, you don't want to reduce a vent. That's just a general law that everybody knows, right? But on relief valves, it's very important, because if you're reducing a vent in a pressurized situation, it's sized to relieve at that vent size.
Sure.
So if you reduce that, now you're reducing the capacity of the valve, and you could be creating back pressure when you shouldn't have been doing that.
Right.
So, we've seen pictures here of funny installs where people have bushings and, drain pipes coming out, and you're like, no. Yeah. You're creating a pressurized situation, and you're taking the safety function away from that valve.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something I wanted to point out, because I know that we've seen that type of stuff, and we're like, ooh.
Yep,
So,
vents should always be full size.
yeah,
Yep.
So different types of valves here. I know you've got a Apollo, you've got some consolidated.
Yep.
And a Kunkel, of course. So.
Yeah, we got a couple different brands. I mean, this is an Apollo bronze. This is a Kunkel bronze. They look very similar. The consolidated, I think this is actually just a painted bronze valve. So both of these are actually bronze valves, just painted.
Yeah.
So, but there's steel valves. There's bigger flanged valves. There's hot water relief valves where they actually have a temperature probe on them. They're temperature and pressure valves. There's a lot of different valves and a lot of different applications.
Sure.
And the big thing is just knowing what you're putting it on, making sure you're matching the application, the code that is supposed to be applied to it, and making sure that you've got it sized correctly.
Yeah. Well, awesome, great information. Appreciate it. If you have those questions, make sure that you get with Brian, because him and his team can help you with that. But obviously, Boiler University is always good to go and learn a little bit extra at the Boiler University School. Well, we'll see you next time on The Boiling Point.